What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Hurricane Watch here on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. I'm your host, Christian Persha, and yes, ladies and gentlemen, I am wearing a Boynton High Lamar Jackson jersey. One of my professors here at FAU last week on Thursday was like, "Hey guys, we're gonna change things up for next week on Tuesday. Everybody wear your favorite jersey. It could be a football, basketball, hockey." Soccer jersey, which probably would have just been a Messi jersey. So I was just like, you know what? Let me go through the inventory. Let me find my favorite jersey, and I'm like, I'm a Palm Beach guy. Let's break out the Lamar jersey. Got a bunch of compliments today at school. I'm riding high. But all in all, great weekend to be a Miami Hurricanes fan. And guess what? We're going to talk all about it. FSU Hate Week. It was here and it was spectacular. Shout out John Rothstein on basketball, or for college basketball takes, but quoting you a little. It was here. It was spectacular. Belts to asses, ladies and gentlemen. Miami defeating Florida State 36-14. We absolutely love to see it. Tonight's episode of the Hurricane Watch, we're going to dive into that Florida State-Miami game. We're going to talk about the recruiting side effects that this game had. We're going to talk about Miami versus Duke on this upcoming Saturday at noon. Like I said, we're going to talk some recruiting because we got a lot of recruiting to talk about. And then finally, I'm going to be joined with my very good friend, Mr. Isaac Bourne from MidMajorMadness. We're going to be talking all things Miami men's basketball leading into the Canes exhibition against St. Leo tomorrow. I'm well aware Miami is not a mid-major by any means. Isaac, I'm testing you a little, see how deep that ball knowledge runs. So we're gonna have a great episode. But without further ado, who is ready to talk all things FSU? Because I sure am. 36-14 victory for Miami. Absolute banger of a game. Damian Martinez, welcome to the 100-yard club on the year. First game as a Hurricane, over 100 yards, tallying in 148 with 2 tutties. Mark Fletcher opened the game off right with a rushing touchdown. In the first quarter. First score of the game. Finished the night, 15 carries, 71 yards, and a score. Want to talk about Marky a little because, as everybody probably knows by now, Mark overcame a serious amount of adversity when suddenly, tragically, on Thursday afternoon, Mark Fletcher Sr., his father, passed away. So being able to get back in that right mindset, just a couple, really 16 or not 16, a little over a day and a half, before kickoff. That was big for Mark, just being able to come back from having an unfathomable loss and put up a performance that he had, definitely in honor of his father, Mark Sr. So I do want to give a special shout out to the Fletcher family and everybody associated with University of Miami football team. Losing Mark Fletcher Sr. is a loss that cannot be replaced. Mark Fletcher Sr. was reportedly always around the facility, always at practice, what took a special part of being with the team. He's going to have a remembrance service later this week. If you guys are feeling very generous, please go out and show condolences and send condolences, and love, and prayers to the Fletcher family. But yeah, like I said, dominant game on the ground. 230 rushing yards on the day, 3 rushing touchdowns. What a day for the Miami backs. Like I said, Damian Martinez had a very big day. In doing so, was named as the ACC running back of the week, as he should. Biggest performance of the day that I want to bring up comes from the spectacular quarterbacking performance from the one and only Mr. Elijah Arroyo, who's probably going to end the year with the highest QBR in college football. 1 pass attempt, 1 catch, one touchdown going to Cam Ward on the Philly special. But guess what? It's the quote-unquote Texas special. Both Arroyo and Cam Ward are from Texas. Coach Cristobal joked about that, talked about that play, and just all in all, it was a great time in the huddle. I got to ask Cam after the game about, so hey, bro, what was your emotions being able to get that play call finally cooked up by Coach Dawson and the offensive staff? First time I've seen Cam Ward smile in a very long time. He started laughing and was like, the entire huddle knew what play I was calling before I even got there because I was smiling ear to ear. We've also got a couple other trick plays up our sleeves, supposedly, that we may be seeing in the very near future. I personally love me some trick play football. Makes the game fun, keeps everybody on their toes. No better time to bust out a trick play than against our one and only arch nemesis rivals from Tallahassee. Yeah, absolutely hilarious turn of events. Love to see it. Best part was I was in right place, right time. Absolute banger of a shot by both myself and Mr. Alex Muniz and Mr. Mike Fabian. We all got the shot. That was my biggest concern, was getting the shot. Got the second Damian Martinez touchdown on camera very well. If you haven't already, tuned into New Era Prep and Bleacher Brothers social medias for all University of Miami coverage. But that was the big performances offensively. Defensively, Kiko Mauinoa, 7 total tackles, 1 QB hit, multiple QB hurries, and a pass breakup. Wesley Besaint, 6 total tackles, another QB hit, multiple QB hurries, like I said. Akeem Mesidor, 3 total tackles, 1 sack. Ruben Bain, 3 total tackles, 1.5 sacks. You just love to see it. Front 7 was feasting. Tyler Barron was named as one of the ACC Defensive Players of the Week. All in all, very dominant performance for Miami. Andy Borregales, man. No limit Andy. 3 field goals on the day, 46-yarder. Absolute bangers, because for multiple possessions, we came away with 3 when we definitely could have came away with 6, 7, 8, depending if we wanted to run a 2-pointer. But yeah, Andy went out, did his thing, and is just an absolute dog. Love to see some Andy Borregales love. That's my kicker, ladies and gentlemen. We neutralized Florida State. We absolutely neutered them. It was glorious to watch. We love to see it. Florida State just couldn't get anything going offensively. Tried running a 2 QB set with Brock Glenn and Luke Kromahuk. 3 sacks on the night for our front 7, like I said. Kromahuk, 6 completions, 61 yards, no touchdowns. Brock Glenn, 5 completions, 54 yards, and a touchdown. Kromahuk also came away with 71 yards on the ground, majority of those being from that tush-push turned big rush. We do not love to see it, personally. Their receiver core, no receivers had over 30 yards. Ja'Kai Douglas with 29, Amari Williams 27, and then Malik Benson with 21. And then everybody else, Loane McCoy, 2 catches for 13, Landon Thomas, 1 catch, and then so forth and so forth. Really just unable to get anything going, both in the air and on the ground. Miami was in control. And when you say Miami, we're talking ACC championship. Little play on words. I know y'all enjoyed that. But Miami moves to 8-0 on the year, moving up to the number 5 spot in the AP Top 25. With this week's Oregon versus Penn State, Penn State versus Ohio State. That's the game. Penn State versus Ohio State. We could very easily be seeing a switch up in the top 10. One of those teams has to lose. Could very easily see either Penn State or Ohio State falling out of the top 5, which would then hopefully mean Miami moves into the 4 seed in order to get them pretty much prime position for an auto bid or auto bye for the college football playoff. Obviously, top 4 seeds get an auto bye. 5 through 12 have to beat the hell out of each other. Moving on to Duke. Duke, 6-2 on the year. Just they've been looking very solid. I'm a little scared about Duke. I'm going to be honest. The overwhelming majority of our schedule is winnable games. I think Duke is our hardest game on the tail end of our schedule. Quarterback play: Malik Murphy with 1,800 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 5 picks on the year. In the ground game, you've got Star Thomas, almost 700 yards and 5 touchdowns. Really nobody else doing anything crazy on the ground. And then wide receiver tandem of Jordan Moore and Eli Pankel, both of which over 400 yards on the year, multiple scores. Moore's got 4, that rhymed. Pankel's got 6. Defensively, they look solid. 1 second. There we go. It just refreshed. Alex Howard with 59 total tackles, 5 sacks on the year as a lineman, as a linebacker. 1 fumble recovery as well. I think being able to neutralize him will be fairly easy for the guys in orange and green. I'm hoping for a green set of unis. We haven't seen the green uppers yet this year. Everything at home has been orange until last week with the blackout. Everything on the road has been white with the Stormtroopers. Would love to see some Lucky Charms. Let's go green out on Saturday. I would love to see it. But all in all, I think Duke is very much a winnable game. Obviously, this one means a little bit more. Manny Diaz coming back to the Rock. I was going to try to show why worst mistake that could have happened was firing him. Not a mistake at all. Coach, wish you nothing but success on the rest of your season, but we enjoy Santa Anita 6-3 on the year. Let's talk recruiting. Let's circle back to the recruiting masterclass by the one and only Mr. Mario Cristobal, because guess what? We had some big recruiting news. I don't know if anybody was aware of this, but Miami, I don't know if anybody's seen it yet. Miami hosted over 130 high school recruits throughout the classes of 25 all the way to 29 were in attendance for Miami, Florida State. It's been 72 hours, give or take. And guess what? We've already got 2 commits on our hands. First one, 4-star defensive back from the class of 26, Camden Portis from North Carolina. Y'all might know last name. Guess what? That is Clinton Portis' kid. One of the greatest Miami football players of all time. His son, there we go. His son is now verbally committed to the U as well. Like I said, Camden is a defensive back primarily. Works his way out of the nickel. I really like how this kid plays football. I think that Camden is an absolute baller. So far through his junior season, 28 total tackles, 7 TFLs, 1 PBU, and 1 forced fumble. Something that I saw on his film was this kid has some elite field vision. Does a great job at detecting plays before they begin, gets into the backfield, and really disrupts option plays. Guess what? He's a defensive back. He is an ankle-biting SOB. He loves to hit low, but he's been known to put his shoulder into people a couple times. All in all, I think Camden is an absolute baller, becomes the 3rd commit in Miami's 26 class. It's not the only commit, like I said. Guess what, guys? Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Malachi Tony is back. He is a Hurricane once again. 4-star wide receiver from American Heritage Plantation has recommitted to the University of Miami. We talked a little bit about it on my show, the New Era Prep Show, last night, because he literally committed within moments of my show beginning. Mally's an absolute dog. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Mally is an absolute dog. 5'11", has elite big play potential. I I like calling him Aaron Judge because he has some home run potential every time he steps on the field. Not World Series Aaron Judge. World Series Aaron Judge is pretty freaking atrocious. I don't know what this brother is doing. But Mally's best trait is that it doesn't matter if it's a really short screen, whether it's a slant, going into a mid route, or a go ball. He's elite at all of it, has true mastery of the route tree. Mally is going to be the rebuilding or the the next generation. There we go, of Xavier Restrepo at the U. I think shorter, smaller, but faster, physical guy. That's what Mally brings to the table for the Canes. I think that's going to be a huge add. Other other recruiting guys. First guy I do want to talk about is the one and only Mr. Javen Maller, who I get to watch on Friday night when his West Boca Bulls face off against the Atlantic High Eagles. Javen Maller, this kid is lightning in a bottle. He is a bruiser. It doesn't matter. He's been known to take a 2-yard gain to the crib. Javian Mallory is an absolute dog. I can't rave enough about this kid. I love watching Javian Mallory play football. Loved his trip to Miami, Florida State. Had a great time and went on record and said, this game and the environment that y'all provided to Miami, Florida State, and the love that was shown to him on the trip reassured him as to why Miami is one of his top schools. That's big because Javen Maller also later in the interview went on to say that he has quietly narrowed his recruiting process to a top 8 to 10 schools. J3 said, after careful consideration with my family, coaches, and other close supporters, I have narrowed down my recruiting process to a top 8 to 10 schools right now. We have decided it is best to keep all matters internal, and he could be possibly committed before spring ball. This could be the big fish, ladies and gentlemen. This is an ad that we need. Obviously, by the time Javian gets to Miami, one would assume that both Damian Martinez and Mark Fletcher would be gone. Jordan Lyle, AJ Allen would be our feature backs. Damian Martinez would come in and make an impact immediately. Speaking about Dame and Mark, Javian had this to say after being able to witness a big performance from them. Seeing Damian and Mark dominate this season has been absolutely wonderful. Obviously, Miami has the best quarterback in college football. So for them to be so dominant in the run game is huge. It starts with the big guys up front. The offensive line has been playing great football this season as well. All of that has been definitely taken into consideration. Ladies and gentlemen, it is working. We could possibly be securing a top 25 running back in the country. That would be huge. Another guy I want to talk about, 4-star linebacker, Mr. Adam Balloon Ali from the Benjamin School in Palm Beach Gardens. Had a great time. Said the game went great. I enjoyed being there a lot, and the environment was unreal. It absolutely let me know that Miami is the top dog in the state, and my perspective on them is expanding. They are definitely a team that comes up when thinking about my recruitment. That's big because, once again, we have a veteran linebacker core with Kiko Mauinoa and Wesley Basaint, who have been absolutely dominating throughout the first 8 games of the year. Adam went on to say, I believe I could play in any type of defensive scheme, and my versatility proves that. Seeing their success is a reflection of Coach Derek Nicholson, who I'm closest with within the program. Adam is an absolute ball hawk linebacker. Every time he gets on the field, his hat is in the action. In terms of his versatility, like he said, he does very well as a Mike, does very well as a will linebacker, and is also lined up as an edge rusher multiple times. Could be very interesting to see what Adam is going to bring to Miami if he so happens to commit. But I want to take a quick little break. We're going to take a little DJ break. When we come back, I'm going to be joined with the one and only Mr. Isaac Bourne, very good friend of mine, one of the smartest nerds I've ever met before. He's in Little Rock, Arkansas right now. Don't know why he's doing that. Elite travel destination, but we're gonna come right back and we're going to catch up with my boy Isaac. Stay tuned. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Hurricane Watch here on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. I'm your host, Christian Proscia, and I'm joined by the one and only Mr. Nerd, Mr. Isaac Bourne. Isaac, how's it going, my friend? Good to see you.
It's good. Thanks for having me on, Christian. Can you hear me well?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Perfect. Yeah, I rigged up a little podcast setup over here. So, you're on my phone right now, but we're chilling.
About to
I'm actually not in Little Rock. I'm in Arkadelphia, Arkansas, which is where I go to college. But I was in Little Rock earlier today for Little Rock basketball practice and some media availability there. So it was a good time, and dropped a bombshell as KK Robinson was announced that he'll be out indefinitely for the Trojans. So that's a big hit in the OVC.
Yeah, that is some big news, and I hope you enjoyed your trip around Arkansas today. I know, like I said, big travel destinations for everybody. Last time we spoke, I didn't have a show. Now I have two. I don't know why people just keep giving me more and more microphones, but I'm gonna take it. I appreciate you for coming on my show today. Obviously, I don't know if this is news to anybody. Miami is not a mid major. So I'm going to test your ball knowledge today. I know you've been doing a lot of research on this new and improved Kane squad, but you ready to talk all things University of Miami basketball?
I think I am. I think Jaylen Blackman he kind of. I mean, we're not going to go into him yet, but his former playing at Stetson is something that kind of sneaks into mid major. Something that I could probably talk about just because I did cover a little bit of ASUN last year. So we'll see what we get here.
I was about to say, with his transfer in from Stetson, he does bring some March experience, veteran March experience, which is something that I really do love about Jaylen Blackman. Obviously, this is a completely new, like I said, new and improved squad. All new, all different squad from the 2023 Final Four run, which is where we met, covering FAU, UConn, Miami, and San Diego State. The only returner from that team is Nigel Pack. Do you foresee there being a learning curve or adjustment for this squad, especially early on in the year?
Well, I think with this Hurricane squad, one thing that a lot of fans are either really happy about or not happy about is the difference in this lineup. I think the big thing with them was last season they came into the year having a lot of expectation behind them and, playing it close with Kentucky or for a little bit anyway at the beginning of that year, and then going into ACC play. A lot of people had some expectations around that team, and after that Final Four run last year, the year before that, a lot of people are thinking that Lurango's squad was going to do more, was going to be able to go back to that, and I think you had a lot of squads that weren't able to do that. A lot of squads that weren't able to pull off what UConn did, which is 2 years success, and I mean it kind of all culminated in what we saw at the end of ACC play for the Hurricanes, just kind of complete like a complete fall apart as a team. And so going into this year, I think the biggest upside for them is that they just completely cleaned house almost with only Nigel Pack coming back. And even up to that point, Pack does bring not just Pack, but also Cleveland coming back. But with Nigel Pack coming in and being that big name, he has that Final Four experience, but at the same time, he also knows what it means to lose. I mean, they saw a lot of broken expectations last year. And so you have a team that, while they might have some growing pains to start off with, could really, really be strong come conference play.
And that's my biggest concern is because obviously, like across college basketball, one of the biggest things, is with all these new squads is learning how to play as an organized five when like against another organized five that's not running in practice. That's one of my biggest concerns with FAU going into the year. That was one of my biggest concerns going in with Miami is how are they going to gel together with them being completely brand new? Is that something that you also kind of share where it's let's see how they look as they play as a full team?
Well, in mid-major basketball, you actually see a lot of this. Just especially, I think, just in basketball, just as a whole in college now. I mean, you see a lot. You see most rosters having to deal with that same problem this season. It's completely new rosters with the transfer portal being so prominent now, and those rules being changed. I mean, every single time that a new season comes in, you're going to have just about the same for lucky schools, but probably a way bigger market of transfers on your team. And so Miami is one of many schools in this country that have to deal with this gelling issue. I mean, I just went to Little Rock earlier today. They only have one returner that's going to be playing for them this season. And so Miami is in the same boat as so many other teams in this country where Nigel Pack and Matthew Cleveland are the only two returners. And while that's better than most, I think that the continuity from last season is what's going to be able to hold them in this conference. And that's something I always try to focus on is a lot of teams that keep that continuity. The teams that can keep that continuity will have more early season success. And so if Pack and Cleveland can come out and immediately start being productive players to start out the year, I think Miami can really start off strong, and then once those other players like Brandon Johnson, Jaleel Bethia, when those guys finally start to be integrated into this system, it's going to be interesting to see if this team can pull it all together. But up to this point, you do have that continuity.
I want to talk a little bit about Nigel a little more. Nigel's one of my favorite people to talk about. I love Nigel Pack, great kid. Um, being selected as preseason first team ACC, being on a couple watch lists. We talked about just the experience, whether it's you said with losing, whether it's being in the big dance. How do you think his game is going to elevate as the season goes on, even after like the first couple weeks of the non-con schedule?
Well, Nigel Pack is a player I've been high on since he was a part of that Final Four team just 2 years ago. he's a guy that has always had the ability to take over a game, even when he wasn't the number one guy on a team. And so now he has the keys to the offense. Now he has the keys in him, and he really is the guy in Miami. And it's going to be really interesting to see if he takes that role and runs with it, because a lot of the time you do have players that when they're finally just shoved into the spotlight, that they might not always be able to take that. Nigel Pack could. There always is the possibility with guys like him where he was able to play well when he wasn't expected of, but now with those expectations, can he play up to those? Now, I don't want to just talk about him without mentioning Cleveland as well, just because, I mean, Nigel Pack had a great season last year, but I mean, looking at Matthew Cleveland, I mean, he averaged more points per game than Nigel, and so, I mean, with his size as well, to be able to get into the interior of the defense a little bit better, I do think that they really do have a two-headed monster in that backcourt.
I want to let's keep talking about Cleveland. You talked about just how he produced, shooting 50% from the field, 36 from three. Do you see like that tandem, that two-handed monster, like you said, Nigel and Cleveland, having same if not better production headed into this year?
I would say probably most likely better. I mean, with the loss of Omier, it's going to be kind of there's going to be a void. And at some point there could be a transfer that comes in like I mentioned. I mean, they still have so many players that can step into that void, but there's going to be a little bit of that void where Pack and Cleveland are just going to have to up their play. I mean, right now Torvik has them averaging just under 15 a game, which is up from their numbers last season just a little bit. But on top of that, I mean, this team is so guard heavy that with good leaders in Cleveland and Pack, I do feel like Blackman also has the ability to fill that scoring void. But like going back to Cleveland, I mean, he's got all the skills, he's got all the ability to up his game. And I do think while Nigel Pack is getting in the headlines the most, I do think Cleveland has the ability to take those headlines right out of Pack's hands and be the guy for this Miami team just because of his size at that either two or three guard position.
Blackman and Kidd were our Jaylen Blackman from Stetson and Lynn Kidd from Virginia Tech were our two, in my opinion, and you probably share the stance of they were the two big fishes coming out of the portal for us. How do you think that they're going to end up playing into this squad success?
Well, Blackman is a bit of a wild card just because those mid-major transfers are always hard to gauge. I think you saw something similar to that at Alabama last year with Aaron Estrada. Just guys that have really, really good success at mid-majors, and they're able to transition that over to the big level when they're put in the right position. I think Blackman, if put in the right position, maybe putting him at a two guard in the starting lineup, or what I think would really help him, making him a spark plug off the bench. That could really give him the opportunity to do what he did at Stetson last year, which is just be a hard-nosed scorer that can shoot the ball. And I really think he can be very productive in that system. Lynn Kidd, I mean, Miami's really, really, really devoid of big men, and so he is going to be thrust into a big role in this lineup just because with the like we said, the loss of Omier puts them in a position now where they need somebody to play that five position. And Lynn Kidd, I mean, 6'10". I don't think anyone else could do better on this lineup.
Another guy coming out of the portal that was kind of a big name throughout the portal was AJ State McCrae. A lot of projections don't have him as a starter for this year. Like in my projected starting five, I do not have State and McCrae. What do you think his role is going to be? Is he going to be a six option, a seven? Where do you think AJ State McCrae is going to play into the madness that is Jim Larinaga basketball?
I think he has the opportunity to be a part of this lineup while obviously, like you said, he isn't going to be a starter in these Power Five programs. I'm saying Power Five, but just in all college basketball programs, you have the ability to grow with the team, and if he fits into the lineup better, look, he's not going. He's not going to be left out of the lineup. So it all just comes down to how well he gels with this team, and if he can do it quicker than his teammates. Obviously, Brandon Johnson is a big name at that position as well, who's going to get a lot of run. Brandon Johnson, Bethea, the freshman coming in, they're both going to get a lot of run at that 3, maybe 2 position. And so, he is behind a couple of guys that you see on this lineup, but I do feel like coming from Samford and with the success that his team had last year, kind of getting gypped out of a NCAA tournament win. Um, I would really like to see if he can be another one of those guys that can show why mid-major players can be successful at the Power Five level.
I agree. I do think a lot of mid-major guys should have the potential to do well at the P5 level. Obviously, Blackman, State McCrae, another guy that immediately stands out to me is John L. Davis, Vlad Golden. Not getting into too homery or anything. I think Chris Youngblood will do very well at Alabama. Future NBA logo Selton Miguel will do well at Maryland. I think there's a lot of ballers coming out of the out of the G5 level that will do well at P4s. But a guy that didn't need to go G5 in order to make an impact, Jalil Bethea, man. This kid is a stud, former seventh overall prospect in the country, true freshman. I'm telling you right now, because I've been able to watch this kid play basketball for a couple practices. Jalil Bethea can jump out of the gym. I have not seen anybody as athletic as Jalil Bethea in a very long time. What is the impact and the ceiling that you think that this kid can have as a true freshman?
I really think that Bethea has the ability to go as far as Coach Jim Larinaga takes him, basically, because you see this a lot with these freshmen that come into big name schools where, I mean, you've seen Duke and Kentucky show that they can make whole lineups out of these 5-star freshmen. And while those teams are successful in the regular season, not many of them have really proven to be successful long term or successful in the NCAA tournament. But teams that have one or two of those really successful freshmen have really shown that they can be good. And I mean, you see plenty of examples of that. I'm going to just go ahead and cite, just off the top of my head, 2014 Duke with Jalil Okafor being the first one that comes to my head. But you see plenty of players like that where the whole team is veterans. Nigel Pack and Matthew Cleveland are going to lead this squad. But Bethea now slots in where he doesn't have expectation to be the best player on this roster, but like Nigel Pack was 2 years ago, like I mentioned, he can produce those big games when he wants to, or I want to say I say when he wants to, but really when he just does. Just because, like you said, athletic types like him can really just pick the most random times to have their best game, and a lot of the times they can be catalysts in that regard. And so while other people are looking at schools like Duke right now who have guys like Cooper Flagg that are going to take all the headlines for the best freshmen, the schools, in my opinion, that I think have the best layout to make it far into March are those teams that have a good mix of veterans with just a few talented freshmen that are going to benefit from playing with those veterans.
That really segued into a question I just had. Obviously, I don't think it's a hot take to say that Cooper Flagg is good at basketball. I think everybody knows that the kid's a baller. But right now he's stealing all the headlines for as far as the best freshman coming in the ACC. Was almost a unanimous vote for freshman of the year, I believe. A kid from Stanford, one of the California schools. There was another, was the one not Cooper Flagg vote was probably a coach or a reporter from Stanford or Cal. Um, Obviously Cooper Flagg is good at basketball, but Can we see Jalil Bethea really challenge Flag for that top freshman in the conference?
Christian, I want to sit here and tell you that Bethea has that ability, and he's a great player. But I can't sit here and tell you that Cooper Flag isn't going to be a stud for the Blue Devils. And I mean, like, I know I might be wearing blue right now, but I'm not a Duke fan by any sense of the word. I'm a fan of good basketball. And a 6'9" kid out of Maine that has played for Monteverde Academy and has been one of the top high school recruits for a good while now, and has the ability to play inside and out, has really, I mean, I don't want to be like the guys in 1912 with the Titanic, but I mean Cooper Flag is just too big to fail at this point. And so Bethea, while a great player, is in a situation where he's going to be probably that second or third option. Cooper Flag has been given the full keys to this Duke lineup, and they just told him to run with it. Obviously, he's got good weapons around him as well, but he does not. I just don't see a world, and it hurts to say because I mean, like, Bethea is going to be a talented player, but Cooper Flag, I just think it's going to be really hard to find anyone better than him in the nation. And you can record that right now, and then if Bethea has a great season, I'll eat my words. But for me, it's just hard for me to anticipate anything other than Cooper Flag averaging anything less than 16 points a game this season.
Yep, I am screen grabbing all of this. I can't wait to prove you wrong, even though you're going to be absolutely right. Cooper Flag is a dog. That was more of a rhetorical. I love watching Cooper Flag play basketball. I really want to go out to Duke when they play at Duke because apparently a game day environment at Duke is pretty cool. Really, no questions needed on that. But competing for a national championship 2 years ago to being the second worst team in the ACC, having 10, 12 game losing streak in just one season. We've seen the highest of highs and the lowest of lows in such a short amount of time in Miami Hurricane basketball. Going into this year, in your professional opinion, because there's nobody I trust more with any basketball knowledge than my good friend Isaac Bourne, where do you think this team will fall as far as ACC standings?
First of all, Christian, that's high praise. Thank you so much for that. But I think first and foremost, before I say where I think they'll fall, I think the biggest goal for Miami this year, and I think it's obvious. I think anyone can really say that, but don't do what they did last year. They need to be able to let losses just shrug off. They can't get into the slumps that they did last year. But as far as where I think that they will land, I do think those ACC projections look pretty pretty much on the nose, having them at sixth in the conference. Though I do think that Virginia at 5 is a little bit too much, especially with you will probably segue into later with Tony Bennett's retirement. I do think that Miami has the ability to jump one or two spots, but I don't. I think that in the upper echelon of the conference, but not at the top, is probably where the Hurricanes are going to sit. And that's really where they found success. And that's why I do think if this team wants to make a late March run, it doesn't always require them to be at the top of the ACC. I mean, like you saw it 2 years ago, they were a 5 seed when they made the Final Four. And so, really, it just takes a group of guys that are willing to up their play in March. And you've seen Nigel Pack do it before, and he can do it again. And so when it comes down to it, if this Miami team finishes anywhere in that top 8 in the ACC and at least earns themselves an automatic bid, I do think that they have the opportunity to make another late run into the tournament just with the guys and the lineup that they have.
You took the words out of my mouth. I was literally just about to segue, and I thought I was going to be the smartest guy in the room, getting ready to segue into this. But how do you think the mid-tier ACC squads that are lining up on paper, because obviously Duke, UNC, they're good basketball teams, But how do you think the teams like Miami, Clemson, Louisville, Wake Forest, how do you think they are going to end up taking advantage and benefiting from Tony Bennett's retirement?
I haven't heard of a school called Louisville before, but I have heard of a Louisville, and
Louisville.
I do feel like that school. I mean, you're looking. I mean, I'm looking at the ACC projected standings, and I've been kind of confused by it for a while now. Having Louisville at 9 is just a little bit too low in my opinion, but obviously I do think that they've had a lack of success in the past, and so I do think that the Cardinals have a chance to be in the upper echelon, especially with all of these these James Madison transfers and guys like that. But on top of all of that, I do think that Virginia does not look good right now. I don't think Virginia has really shown anything that it gives me the ability to say that they're going to be anywhere in the upper half of the ACC right now. You've seen their performance. You might have saw actually, you probably didn't, but in secret scrimmages you've seen they lost 71-49 to I off the top of my head, I can't tell you, but they lost pretty big to a higher level mid-major squad. And so this Cavaliers team kind of scrambling right now, trying to at least salvage something from this season that's at this point over before it has started, just because Tony Bennett is such an impactful coach, and losing now players to the transfer portal has really made it almost panic time for them, and it's going to be interesting to see what they can cobble together. And I mean, at this point, I mean, you could screen grab this for me as well. I just don't see Virginia finishing top 10 in the ACC just from what I've seen. Obviously, secret scrimmages and things like that are a little bit, I can't go too far with that because I mean, Duke won a secret scrimmage by 80 points the other day over Arizona State. And while Duke is great, I don't think Arizona State looks that bad this year. And so, so you always take scrimmages with a grain of salt, but I mean Virginia just not looking good right now, and we'll see if they can pull it together. And that gives the opportunity like Miami, that gives schools like Pitt, NC State, like you said, the opportunity to make those jumps.
I want to talk a little bit scheduling. In my opinion, when breaking down Miami's schedule, I think that they do have a resume that sets them up with a couple very solid on paper wins going into this year. Um, just outside of the non-con schedule, having Drake, having possibly FAU in the Charleston Classic, Arkansas in the ACC SEC Challenge, and then Tennessee in the Jimmy V. I think those are all presumable. I could see Q1 to Q2 matchups. Then you have two matchup two matchups. Excuse me, communications major can't talk. Two matchups against Duke. There we go. UNC, NC State, who's just in the Final Four, and then a bunch of other very solid games in conference. Is this resume, if they do well in non-con and they do well in conference schedule and they do well in the tournament, in their conference tournament, is this resume enough for a March bid?
Well, certainly. I think this Miami team, if they can pick up two or three quad one wins before they even enter conference play, I think that resume looks amazing. Obviously, that does require them to have success in ACC play. And when you have Duke twice, and then you have not Notre Dame, excuse me, when you have North Carolina, it's going to be North Carolina on the road too. It looks intimidating to start off, but I don't think that this isn't a reason for the Miami to keel over. I think that they have some great opportunities. You mentioned Drake. Drake, while they are a little bit down with the loss of, Tucker DeVries and his dad Darian DeVries to West Virginia, I do think that's a solid quad two win, and I think it's a easily winnable game to start off the season. I think those first five are going to be a really good way for this team to gel because they're going to be, I'm not going to say easy games, but they're going to be winnable ones because they're going up against mid-major teams that haven't had a lot of success. Other than Drake, all of those four other teams really haven't shown me that they can make a big jump. I mean, Fairleigh Dickinson had that win over Purdue in the tournament a couple years ago, but I
And then
mean,
the lost FAU. And then the lost.
exactly. But I mean, Binghamton, Coppin State, Charleston Southern are at the bottom or close to the bottom of their respective conferences. So this gives Miami this 5 game stretch to start the year gives Miami the ability to get excited in front of their home crowd because they have 4 of those 5 at home, but also the ability to learn and also still not really give up too much of their resume because they're going to be easy ones that they can learn about. And then playing Arkansas at home is going to be big for them because that'll be the culmination of that November stretch that they have. Arkansas looking to be one of the top teams in the nation. Obviously, Coach Calipari making the move over there, and then obviously your boy John L. Davis being the big name over there now. That'll be their first early season test, and they have Arkansas, Clemson, Tennessee just immediately after that 5 game stretch. So those are 3 games right there that are going to give Miami all that they paid for those games. And you know, it's something that I think is really strategically a good scheduling, a good scheduling on the part of the Hurricanes, just because they have that ability to get integrated and then they have the ability to go prove themselves.
Isaac, absolute banger analysis as always, my boy. Once again, nobody is smarter when it comes to college basketball than Isaac Bourne. He showed it tonight in case it wasn't blatantly obvious. Isaac, I do want to thank you so much for your time. We're winding down on our time. Really don't want to get an angry phone call from AJ, so we're gonna wrap things up. But I do appreciate you. You have such a busy schedule. I appreciate you for making out some time to talk to little old me. And before I let you go, where can all of the Hurricane Watch fans follow Isaac Bourne, whether it's on social media or anything like that? Shameless plug, go.
All right, what you got to do is you go to Isaac Bourne _ on Twitter, and you can find my link tree, and they'll have all of my links on there. But then also just looking up my name on online could send you to MidMajorMadness and things like that. But the main thing is, all my updates will be on Twitter, and so if you just look up my name, I really hope that I would be one of the top results. But besides that, yeah, you can find really all my links. I'm usually pretty good at keeping them all in the same place.
Yeah, I just searched up your name. First thing that popped up was somebody's mugshot. Just kidding. Mid-major basketball, first thing that pops up. But Isaac, my friend, thank you so much for your time.
Well, thanks, Christian, for having me on.
Yes, sir, my boy. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the one and only Mr. Isaac Bourne, mid-major basketball specialist, really college basketball specialist. Once again, smartest person I know. I'm truly blessed to be able to share the screen with him. We're winding down on our time here on the Hurricane Watch. If you're just tuning in, we talked all things University of Miami football and basketball. We talked about that belt to ass Florida State versus Miami game, the recruiting ramifications of that game, a little bit of a Duke preview for this game on Saturday, and then men's basketball. If you missed it, guess what? It's going to be posted on YouTube. Make sure you tune into that. At Bleacher Brother, at Bleacher Brothers on Instagram, Twitter. If you think of a social media, you'll find Bleacher Brothers. Make sure you're tuning into that. But for Bleacher Brothers, New Era Prep, and everybody in between, I'm Christian Proscia. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. I will see you at the Hard Rock on Saturday. Have a good one, everybody.